Silver Surfer Parable is a limited series set in the Marvel Universe, created by two giants in American and European comics, Stan Lee in charge of writing and Moebius as illustrator, originally published by Marvel's Epic Comics imprint in 1988 and 1989. This peculiar collaboration would be the only one between the mythical French artist and the renowned American publisher. Epic Comics was an imprint of the Marvel publishing house created in 1982. With this imprint, Marvel sought to explore new ways to develop new projects, with more conceptual titles, even giving the opportunity to young artists to use the characters of the publisher for their stories. Epic Comics also stood out for being one of the first to publish material created in other countries, such as the graphic novels of Moebius, R-Type Garage, The Ink Hall, and Blueberry, among others. Even manga such as Akira by Katsuhiro Otomo. Stan Lee was an admirer of Moebius' work since he read one of the copies of Blueberry and his science fiction works in Metal Heartland magazine. The versatility of the French artist made him see that he was not in front of just any comic artist but a titan of the medium. Lee wanted to work with Moebius at all costs, but he had no way to reaching him. In the 80s, communicating with strangers was much more complicated than now. But as if it were a script written by Stan Lee himself, by a curious coincidence, both the American and the Frenchman coincided at the Anaheim Book Fair in 1988. A lunch followed, where Lee expressed his admiration for his work, and Moebius returned the flattery to the former Marvel editor, praising several of the stories written by Stan Lee that Moebius had had the opportunity to read. But it was Moebius' representative who took the first step to sow the seed of a future collaboration, suggesting to the French artist that he should make a comic book with Stan Lee, to which writer and artist agreed enthusiastically. Although they did not have in mind what would be the specific project. During the conversation, Moebius mentioned that Silver Surfer seems to him a fascinating character, words that pleased Stan Lee, since Silver Surfer is one of his favorite characters.
So I had this character, Galactus, and Jack drew the story, but in the story, he drew a fellow on a flying surfboard. I made him a philosophical observer of the world and the universe. And I had him talk in semi-Shakespearean and biblical language. And he became my mouthpiece for how I feel about a lot of things. I told Jack I want to use this character a lot.
There they had the hero of their story. It was up to them to define the theme. Stan Lee wrote many stories about Silver Surfer, but he wanted this story to be something different, something special, a story that fits perfectly with the style and temperament of Moebius. So after several days analyzing concept of the character and its scope, and reviewing all letters he received as editor where fans praised quasi-religious tone of the stories of the Cosmic Surfer, he decided that the story would go that way. Also takes place in the future, which would allow him to introduce Galactus again, but presented in a different way as he did the first time. Also, in this way, Moebius could have more freedom to represent the characters and the world around them. Galactus, the devourer of planets, has once again returned to Earth, but instead of attacking, he declares himself a supreme and divine being, recruiting a growing and enthusiastic legion of followers organized as a kind of religion. Galactus' plan is to destroy the Earth by having humans annihilate each other. Silver Surfer, who at that point in the future still remains exiled on our planet, emerges from his anonymity to stop his former master, but he does not take into account the fanatical devotion of the new human converts. For Moebius, it was a challenge. In fact, until the last moment, he didn't know how to face this work. But after contemplating for days the blank page he had to fill with his drawings, he was inspired by a memory of when he worked in Metal Harland. He remembered one of the works of his partner in the magazine, Philippe Droulet, Boss, comic that Droulet drew in a simple and organic way in the style of a storyboard. That's how Moebius started drawing the scenes of Silver Surfer in a spontaneous way. This was the first time that this artist worked with the so-called Marvel method. Stan Lee gave him the plot quite detailed, about 6 pages, but without breakdowns or dialogues. It was something quite unusual for him, since normally he would be provided with a whole script, or he would develop the story together with the writer, as in the case of the Inkal with Jodorowsky. However, he loved that way of working to such an extent that he suggested to Jean-Michel Chalier, writer of Blueberry, to work out the next issues that way. Later, Stan Lee would give him the characters' dialogues, and the Frenchman was impressed by the poetic, almost theatrical nature of these dialogues, which showed a depth and very personal vision of the American writer. And the fact is that this comic with his action scenes is very loaded with philosophical, political and social points of view, which make it not feel outdated today. We are facing a really interesting work in principle by the clash between two worlds, between Stan Lee, the best known writer and editor of American comics, and one of the most important and influential artists in European comics in recent decades, as is Jean Giraud, which result in a rather curious work that at first sight can be disconcerting. To someone who is used to American comic, it will seem very European, and to a European, it will seem very American. In fact, at the time this comic raised some controversy, and it was not common to see prestigious European authors drawing superheroes, but that did not prevent Silver Surfer Parable won an Eisner Award for Best Limited Series in 1989. Probably, we are not before the best work that Moebius has drawn in his career, nor the best story written by Stan Lee, but we are before a good and interesting comic that explores from another light to classic characters of the American comic, with the particular prose of Stan Lee and the always exceptional drawings of Moebius. And as a personal note, if there is something that has drawings of Moebius, surely worth a look.